Hello, and welcome to another Franchise Hockey Manager 6 stream. My name is Adam. I'm the community manager of Franchise Hockey. With me, as always, and not pictured on your screen, is FHM producer Jeff. Say hi, Jeff.
Hey, everybody.
And Jeff, we are back in 1979, and we're playing as Team USA. What? What is going on? Explain this to me.
I decided to take a little break this week from our usual alternate history 1960s NHL game just to do something different. This is just going to be a one-off, I think, for tonight because I think we can get through the whole season of this in one shot. What we're doing is playing as the Miracle on Ice team, only not in the Olympics. We're putting them in the NHL that season. So I know whatever whatever backstory you want to give that. Maybe the Olympics get shut down for some virus or something. Not that that could ever happen. And instead, they decide to play in the. And they decide to put the American team in the NHL. I mean, the main reason I want to do this is just to see how good this team actually was relative to NHL players, because a lot of these guys, probably half, 2/3 of the team went on to play in the NHL that season, and most of them did fairly well. A couple didn't work out so hot, and then there were a few guys, Mike Ruzioni, Buzz Schneider, Eric Strobel, that I think pretty much retired at that point and decided they didn't want to play hockey anymore, so we can see how they do against NHL competition. But just sort of an interesting what if. How good was the Miracle on Ice team relative to the NHL? And you weren't optimistic about how good they were going to do.
I was questioning how good they would do. They have some decent players, but I'm just not sure where exactly they're going to fall in.
Well, I gave them did a little bit of a favor by putting them in the Norris division, which is, and you can see it, this is in 79 was the last year before they went to the weighted schedule and put teams in something closer to geographically appropriate locations. Or am I remembering? No, it was a couple of years after that, not to think of it. But anyhow, so we've got is a Norris division where it's with teams spread from all over the country. But the good news is about half of them, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Hartford, are kind of on the weaker side. Montreal and LA are a bit better. Well, Montreal's a lot better. So we're going to be seeing a lot of them, unfortunately. And I'm not optimistic what's going to happen there. But we may have a shot. I think we can at least keep out of last place in the league and hopefully the division. And, playoff spot's a long shot, but you never know.
You never know. The most famous words heard on an FHM street.
And just to explain what I've done with the roster, this is the actual 1980 U.S. Olympic team. What I've done, though, is included everybody who played at least one game for them a year.
Good creative ass. Are the players already in the game?
Most of them are. Some of them are in the database, but you can't actually get at them through historical import because they didn't play in the NHL. They will show up in things like a random debut game or sometimes as draft picks if you're playing a regular historical game, but because they don't have an actual NHL career, it won't work with historical import. So I'd probably say about 70% of the guys I was able to get just using historical import, and then I had to fill in the rest, just creating themselves, copying some, in some cases just copying the data out of the database, and then I had to create a few on my own because what I did was I didn't include just the guys who played in the Olympics. I figured since we were going to play a whole season, we're going to need a few spare guys. So it also includes, the Bruce Horst, the third stringer who played a handful of games, exhibition games earlier in the season, and a few guys, Gary Ross, Dave DeLitch, who were earlier cuts, and Ralph Cox, the very last cut. If you've seen the movie, the TV movie they did, and ABC did in the early 80s, and then Miracle after that. They go into his story a little bit on there. Got hurt and hadn't quite recovered in time, but here he is with the team.
But you think we have a game where everybody stays perfectly healthy?
Yeah, that's I don't know. I think we're going to have enough guys with 27. Worst case, if we have to, because the lineups are only 19 players at this point, so we've got 8 spares, including a spare, third string goalie.
Worst case is you sign a bunch of Russians.
Yeah. No, if we have to, I'll try to find American free agents to fill in. So for now, I'm just going to clean up the roster a bit, and just so we've got just what we need to begin the season with. I am going to shuffle the lines down a little bit. And how many 7 defensemen need to keep it like that? 8, 14 forwards. At least one more goes down, I think. Well, let's just start with the actual Olympic team then. Cox gets sent down. And with that, whoops. Now, the actual lines we're going to wind up with here are going to be a little different than what they used in the Olympics. If I remember right, Dave Christian was actually used it as a defenseman in the tournament.
Dave Christian?
Yeah, who played, former Jet, and played completely as a forward in the NHL. But I think Herb Brooks was using him as a defenseman in the tournament, if I remember correctly. So we're going to use him as a forward here instead. Neil Broughton wasn't really the number one center here, but obviously had the best NHL career out of any of the Olympians. We will have him on our first line. And let's see, yeah, that looks pretty reasonable.
I have to admit something, Jeff. I've never actually sat down and watched the Disney Miracle movie.
Oh, come on, it's important cultural experience for you. Okay, let's just run this. Let me check, make sure I haven't got any odd settings on. Yeah, looks good. And just if anybody's wondering how we did this, that was just turning historical editing on in a normal 7980 start. Pretty much all the default options are left on.
Which also means he has the terrible Hartford Whalers to beat up on.
Yeah, they're not that terrible. This is actually there he is, the last NHL season of Gordie Howe. So we'll get to see a little of him this year. And I'll just show you what else is in the division. Pittsburgh is kind of they're sort of at a weak point here. They've got a few guys who were left over from the good teams in the 70s. A couple of guys like Randy Carlyle up and coming, but not really a contender. Detroit is just a complete train wreck at this point.
Tire fire is the correct word.
Yep. Pete Mahovlich and Rogie Vachon, who are probably 5 years past their prime, are their best players. Montreal, just coming out of the dynasty, they're scary. Stupid amount of goaltending talent and depth everywhere. So,
and you have the best team in the NHL is still in your conference.
Well, no, the Islanders are probably a little better than them at this point. They won the cup that year. And the lovely Purple and Gold Kings.
That's what I was talking about. I said they're in their conference.
No, they're in the Campbell.
That's a division, Jeff. Oh, no, sorry, my bad.
Yeah, Campbell is a division.
I got it mixed up. My
you
bad.
did, yep.
These names the names always get me. I forgot that Detroit and Pittsburgh was in the West, too. And Hartford.
Okay, so I'm not going to make, just as a sort of ground rules for this, I'm not going to make any trades because obviously we want to keep the American Olympic team together. So
I was just asking about if you're going to make trades, and then Commando Brando 84 asks, so any chance of putting the Coneheads line together?
Refresh my memory. Who was that? I remember the name, but I don't remember who was on it. Okay, here we go. Just in the preseason here. So first game naturally is against Montreal. Just going to sim it because this is liable to be ugly. We've got the backup goalie, Januzak, in. Wow, 4-4 tie.
Okay, quick Google says Mark Pavlich, John Harrington, and Buzz
Schneider. Okay, so I'm going to have to move Harrington. Yeah, I will put that back together. But, wow, surprisingly...
Minnesota's Iron Range.
We got crushed on shots, but somehow tied Montreal 4-4 in our first exhibition game.
Canadians versus Americans.
So let's see, Pavlich will need to go there. And
I guess I should mention as well, we are streaming this on our Twitch page, which is twitch.tv/OTP Developments, as well as our Steam page as well. So if you hear us talking about questions, they're mostly coming from Twitch, but if they do come from Steam, I'll make sure to outline it there.
Yep. Okay, there we go. Coneheads are our third line. And playing against another strong team, the Flyers, the next night. Why don't we start in the backup? I gotta check the goalie settings, and Flyers only beat us 4-3. Oh, it's the exhibition season. That's why the AI is probably doing that. Okay, I'm just going to rush through the exhibition season since there's not really much to learn from there. Oh, we got the Canucks next. The lovely Star Wars uniforms, and we come away with a 5-2 win. So we're beating or at least reasonably competitive with NHL teams, but, until that. 4-0. The Riverton Rifle, Reggie Leach, 4 goals for the Flyers. That wasn't pretty. Who we drafted in our other game that we would normally be playing at this time. We'll probably get back to that in a couple of weeks. Mike Ramsey hurt. Let's just swap him with Les Auger for a game. And the Hartford Whalers and Gordie Howe. And we beat them 5-1. So we're not consistent, but we can occasionally steal some points here. Everything good there? Yeah. Rangers up next. And yeah, there we go. Another big loss, 7-1 to them. And the Nordiques. You like the uniforms, Adam?
They're not bad.
I think I did a reasonable job on them. I couldn't do the little star on the shoulders. I couldn't figure out how to get that in there. But 3-1 loss to Quebec there, by the way. It came up.
Did you make them yourselves, or what did you do?
I used the Jersey Editor utility that can't remember who made it, but it's linked in the forums if I remember right. And they came out reasonably well. But they should have a little star up here on the shoulders that I couldn't get that working quite right, so left it out. And I won't say how many tries it took me to make the jerseys look proper.
There is an option to put put shoulder patches on.
Yep, I saw that, and I was fooling around with it, but I couldn't get it. I need the same star on both shoulders, and from what I could see, I could only put it on one, which looked strange.
You can. What you have to do, though, I found it's a little bit. I want to say a little bit of a hiccup, I guess is probably the best word to use. You need to put one patch on the shoulder, then put the center crest on, then put the other patch on. And that seems to make it work right.
And not surprisingly, we're not being discussed as one of the favorites for the upcoming season.
I am shocked. Shocked, I tell you.
Okay. Let's go. Well, at least we're opening the season against Detroit. Relatively easy warm-up. And we pick up a 2-2 tie. And more importantly, we're fairly close, 31-30 on the shots. Steve Kristoff with a couple of points for us. Future Minnesota North Star and Calgary Flame.
Not bad at all.
And somebody's injured. Well, it looks like Ramsey is back, so I can swap him back in for Auger, but Bob Suter got hurt. Looks like it might be a serious one. What's he got? Just a tight groin, that's all. Nothing major. Nordiques up next. This is the pre-Stasny Nordiques, so we've got a chance here. Starting to back up Januzak, and 5-1 loss to the mostly leftover from the WHA Nordiques. And we've got the Wings again. And another tie against the Wings, 3-3. A lot of shots. Yeah, this is the 1980s, so we're going to see some high scoring totals here. The goalie numbers won't be too impressive. Oh, no, Phil Esposito's still around. That's right. This was the season he retired early in the year. But it looks like he's actually gotten off to a good start here. The Islanders. Yep, first Stanley Cup Islanders. They don't have Butch Goring yet, but most of the pieces are in place, so this may not be pretty. No, 4-1 win. Didn't embarrass ourselves, at least. And we've almost got Bob Suter back on defense. Kings up next, intra-division rivalry. And they're starting their backup, Doug Keane, so maybe we can... No, we can't steal one. 3-2 loss. And yeah, Triple Crown line. Charlie Simmer, Marcel Dion, first and third stars. We'll check our stats after a couple more games. So Suter back healthy again. Yeah, looks like he is. Yeah, I probably should have put in Herb Brooks' my name. He's actually in the database. Oh, here, I'll do this. There we go. We've hired Herb Brooks. And these are just the... I made him an assistant coach. I don't want to make him the head coach because that'll kick me into GM-only mode. But most of the staff is just the default guys you get when you add a new team. And signed a few free agent staff to fill it out.
Is that it?
What was that?
Did you forget to hire people?
Nope, that's the game auto hired them when I started. We got a full staff. And Whalers again, future Canucks broadcaster John Garrett in goal for them.
Jeff, sorry, did you answer this question, the last question in the chat?
Where are the home games being played? That one? CSI?
Yes.
Yeah, they are. Is it? No, we don't show that in the screen. That was our first win, by the way, 4-2 against Hartford. But there we go. Yeah, it's on this one. The Lake Placid Olympic Ice Center, or Olympic Center Ice Rink. So we are actually playing these home games in Lake Placid where they won the tournament. Although not before huge crowds, a big 770 people there. How are we doing in the standings? We've got a win and 2 ties. Yeah, see, okay, not embarrassing ourselves so far. Even with Pittsburgh, although they got a game in hand. Wings again. And yet another tie against the Wings. Pete Mahovlich, Little M, 2 goals for them. Barry Melrose apparently managed to get himself suspended. He's playing for the Jets.
Seems about right. This was a very bad Jets team, 1979.
Yeah, this was the losing streak year, wasn't it? Or was it the year after, 80-81?
We looked up this when we did the stream way back.
Because it's this year's the losing streak because it's 80. Because I went to a game this year in Winnipeg around Christmas, Jets and the Stars, and big 6-1 loss. Had to be
devastated.
Yeah, the one I went to was right after they had broken the streak, so I didn't actually get to see one of the losing streak games. I just remember from the game sitting in the stands and listening to the guy behind me scream obscenities at Marcus Matson, the Jets goalie, like it was somehow his fault that he was playing for one of the worst teams in history. And 5-1 loss against the Rangers. Okay, well, at least Jim Craig's getting a lot of work and started to heat up a little bit.
Commando Brando asks, hey, Adam, I have to ask, did you come up with the description for the Hartford Whalers challenge?
No, that one was mine.
Yes. I came up with a lot of the achievement names, but Jeff did the descriptions.
Which I stole from Kevin Smith on that one, but still. Going to swap Eric Strobel out, put in Phil Verchota. And
you might also know because there's still Vancouver mentioned in it, that it was Jeff.
And the Islanders. Throwing the backup in.
CSI is requesting you play out a game.
Okay, well, let's take a look at the schedule. It'll be an interesting one to play. We got... Oh, here we go. The next one up is Colorado Rockies. Classic early 1980s.
Okay, so looking at the...
Oh, wait, is this... actually, look, if I'm remembering this correctly, is he coaching Colorado this year?
Jeff, looking at...
Yes, he is. Grapes is coaching the Rockies this season. So
yes,
we're gonna...
This is last year coaching.
Yep. Up against
looking
Untitled.
At the stats, it was the 1980-81 season where they were really bad.
So did they have Babbage at that point?
They did. They selected
did.
him. That was his first year. But they lost... Sorry, they won October 17th, their third game of the year versus Chicago. Tied their next game and then either lost or tied every game up until December 23rd, 1980, where they finally beat the Colorado Rockies.
And speaking of the Rockies, we've got them here. Hardy Strom, Don Cherry's favorite goalie, those lovely purplish blue uniforms.
So they were 1-2-0 when they went.
I don't know what I left these settings on here.
1-25-7 by the time they won their second.
Okay, we're just going to show the goals.
I think we got that confused the first time too. If you've been watching a stream for... Oh man, what did we say? This is... we've been doing this 5 years now, Jeff?
Yeah, okay. I'm just going to mute the sound there because that's coming in too loud for us. How many years was it? Yeah, about 5. It's 5, isn't it?
I think it's 5 now. We've been streaming.
And
Yeah,
we were down 1-0, but Ken Morrow, future Islander, ties it up.
I think everybody agrees that Rockies logo is pretty awesome.
Creative too. I mean, it's like the Colorado State flag turned into a logo, which seems questionable, copyright-wise. But hey, why not?
Their jerseys, not so much. Don't really like the color scheme.
They kept that color scheme from Kansas City more or less, because the
Yeah,
Scouts
I
had
know.
pretty much the same one.
But the logo itself, I really like.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just keep running this on fast mode and only showing the goals. If I cranked it all the way down, this is what it would look like. Well,
We could watch it for an hour.
it'll move more like that, and the play-by-play will slowly grind out. But just for the sake of getting this done in one shot tonight, I'm gonna. Whoops! I don't want very slow. I want very fast. We will just show the goals here, and we need another one to tie this game up. And we're actually out shooting the Rockies. Can't convert. Neil Broughton having a good game, looks like.
Yes.
Ah, okay. And Ron Delorme, future Canucks head scout, makes it 3-1. So we're down 3-1 to Don Cherry and the Colorado Rockies. Can we come back? Looks like we're going to get one. Buzz Schneider makes it 3-2. Jack O'Callahan, future Chicago Blackhawk, among other things. And Dave Silk, later of the Rangers, ties it up. And there is no overtime this year, so we can finish in a tie. And we're handily out shooting Colorado. And Steve Kristoff makes it 4-3. I think we're going to get another win here.
Excellent.
And are we going to get another one? Yep, Dave Christian. Off the rebound from Jack O'Callahan again. 5-3. Colorado's probably going to have to pull a Strom here. And there we go, Rob McClanahan. Six 3, and looks like that's the way it's going to end. So our first really big win of the year, and where does that put us?
I see as high as his Don Cherries and a happy camper. No, he wasn't from much of that.
Yeah. Well, we've got 3 wins so far this year. We're 1 point ahead of them, but we've got a couple of games in hand. And Nordique's up next. Got a fairly hot Jim Craig playing with us. 5-2 win over, despite getting... Oh no, we outshot him again. Okay, are these guys... not developing fast enough? What I mean, just looking at the star ratings, we're quite a bit worse than the rest of the league. Yeah, Montreal loses Guy Lafleur for a month. That'll help.
Doesn't hurt us.
And I'm going to keep playing Craig as long as he's winning. Penguins up next. With those weird sort of high... This is the year they had like the black and yellow... Oh no, yeah, this is when they still had the black and yellow Penguin logo, but blue and white uniforms. They switched in the off-season. And Pittsburgh comes up with a 6-4 win. Former Flyer and all-time great name, Morris Kindrachuk, the first star. And how are we doing on time? Okay, I got to pick this up a little bit.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, we can always go a little bit over. And we lose 5-3 to the Kings. Mario Lassard in goal for them. And the Atlanta Flames up next. This is the team that our starting goalie, Jim Craig, actually wound up playing for this season before he got traded to Boston when the Flames moved to Calgary in the off-season. Oh, that's not good. 9-6 loss. There's a 1980 score for you.
Yep.
Oh, former WHA goon Frank Beaton with 3 points. A lot of red on the game scores there. That doesn't look good. Steve Christoph did manage to get 3 points. Oh, and we got Neil Broughton hurt on top of that. Great. How bad? Couple of weeks. Well, not good. He's our best player. At least Mark Wells will get into the lineup now, and I'm going to have to juggle the lines around a little bit. No, that's not good. Better. Wait, what? Where's Christoph on the fourth line? That's no good. Okay. And looks like we got Gordie Howe in the wings next. Is he in the lineup? Yep. Second line going to start the backup tonight. And we come up with a 6-4 win. How'd Gordie do? And 1 assist. Pretty good game from him. Not bad for a 50-year-old.
Not bad at all.
And the Flyers the next night. I'm not expecting a win here. And nope, not surprisingly, 5-2 loss. Reggie Leach, 3 goals against us again. So this is a good sign that he's going to do well for us in our other game, right?
Maybe. Maybe not.
And we're back against Hartford. Did Melrose get suspended? I think he got suspended again. Yep, Barry Melrose has been suspended for a total of 13 games this season. 2 separate incidents. And 2-2 tie against Hartford. That's a point at least. Where does that put us? Oh, we dropped down to last place in the division, although it's pretty tight. We're only 4 points back of Hartford, and they're in second. Montreal's kind of way out in front. Conference, we are ahead of Quebec, who's having a really bad year. And 19th out of 22 in the league.
Again, Quebec's coming in with a pretty bad team.
Yep. They didn't get the Stasniks until next season, so that kind of turned things around for them. Penguins again. And we squeezed out a 7-6 win. Looks like we had to pull a goalie to do it, but we'll take the 2 points.
Take any when you can.
And the post-Don Cherry Bruins up next. For the team that Jim Craig actually wound up playing for the next season. He had some injury trouble after that and never really got on track after that point. Only played a couple of games, I think, after 1981. But he's doing pretty well here. Let's see how he does against the Bruins. And that's a 3-1 loss, but 67 shots against. And Craig stopped 65. And looks like we let in an empty netter. Jerry Cheevers in the Boston goal didn't have much work, and not surprisingly, at least we may have lost, but Craig got the first star there. Definitely deserved it. And that's good. Neil Broughton is a little ahead of schedule on his injuries, so maybe we'll have him back in a reasonable amount of time. Back against the Canadians. 4-2 win, and shot total wasn't incredibly lopsided at least. And Jim Craig is all the way up to 5 heat ratings. Oh, we got the Canucks. So I won't tank it by playing our backup. Those lovely bright yellow Canucks home uniforms. Got one hanging in my closet. And we lose 5-1 and 5-2. Or you,
CSI312 in the chat says, why is it taking so long for Seattle to release the nickname for the team? Now's the time to do it.
I know there's so much uncertainty about everything going on now.
I think they really don't because, number one, they want to sell lots of stuff, and that's hard to do when everything's closed or slowly beginning to reopen depending on where you are, I guess.
It's not like there's a giant Seattle-based business that could mail out all the stuff people want.
Well, two, I'm going to guess that there's going to be a little bit of instability right now as to when they might actually come into the league.
Yeah.
I know what the plan has been, but again, Jeff and I were talking just before we got started. I mean, the latest projections are the NHL possibly starting next season in December and still playing 82 games, which
doesn't make a
Jeff
whole lot of
didn't
sense to me.
see,
Yeah.
But they said they would take away bye weeks, no All-Star game, basically going all the way into June, then kicking playoffs off, which goes into July by the time the Stanley Cup is, and then if you have to have an expansion draft shoved in there before the next season starts with free agency, boy, that's a lot of things going on in a very short time. And I'm sure maybe they've even talked about it, but the NHL might be just going, whoa, hold your horses here a bit. There's a lot of other things, and we'll want to reveal this at the right time. And again, the NHL for the 2019-2020 season is still paused. It's not canceled. Nothing's really happening. So
yeah, it's a whole
the NHL
different
doesn't
thing.
want to take away from that.
And speaking of the pause, various rumors that they might be getting the teams back together in some point in the near future, telling the players to be prepared to move back to their cities, which not sure how that works when the international border's still closed. 4-3 win against the Blues there.
Well, that's yeah. P-Wogs in the chat says go Wings, of course. He says, you two still staying healthy?
Yep, I'm good. You're a mess.
No, I'm fine. But I hurt my neck a bit just doing some things around the house, and otherwise, doing everything you can to make sure I don't get sick, as most people are.
Yep.
But CSI, going back to the point, I understand what he's like. Now's the time to capitalize on the news. Yeah, true, but at the same time, is it the press you really want? And again, right now, you just had the NFL draft, which everybody turned into and complained about, basically, because it wasn't done super well.
Yeah.
I mean, Jeff, did you watch the NFL draft?
No, I didn't see any of it. I've been working on
it was good. Like it was really entertaining. There was no hiccups, but the point I mean that people weren't really thrilled about, and I got it too from where I was watching it. Basically, they made every single depressing story like show.
Oh, that I saw. Yeah,
hey,
the crazy. Some of the.
Hey, this person had their parent die when they were 8, and hey, this person lost their grandparent like a week ago, and you're like, why are you telling us
This guy wet the bed until he was 14.
A little bit of happiness. And it was like every single person, you're going, oh my goodness. And so, like, I'm sure the NHL.
Oh, gotta stop here. We got the Jets. Should we play this one out for you?
Whatever you'd like.
Okay.
And so I'm sure the NHL is very aware, going, okay, we got to make sure we time this right and not overshadow some things. And for that matter, I usually have previously watched the news just about every night, just to, keep up on things and see what's going on. But since the lockdown, for lack of a better term, again, it's pretty hard to turn on the news because there's not a lot of news I want to hear that I'm not already consuming in the 23 hours rest of the day, because it's, there's been 25 new cases, there's been 10 new cases.
Yeah.
There's been this many in the ICU. Well, I don't need to hear that 15 times or hear what the Prime Minister of Canada said at 10 o'clock this morning and hear it again at 6 o'clock at night. Yes, apparently I'm going on a bit of a rant there, but I hope that, but my point being, I'm sure the NHL is very much in contact with Seattle going, okay, we got to make sure we do it right. Gudu and CS High both want to know: are you working on things, Jeff? And what kind of things?
This right now, it's the kind of thing I can't talk about at all. So it's coming along well. I'll say that much. But yeah, we're gonna try to get information out a little earlier than we did last year. Like start talking in the summer about what we got coming. But there's a few things we got to. Whoops! I broke my screen there.
Although to be fair, right now days are kind of blending together. It's hard to remember what day's Wednesday even to come do this. Right.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, we're getting killed by your Jets. I hope you're happy.
Again, they weren't terrible this year.
Bobby Howe had a goal. Looks like he's managed to stay healthy in this season.
He played,
Man,
8 games in this season. 13 maybe.
I think he's played more than that here, and we're losing 6-2 despite shooting him 7-2. Man,
Checking the stats here.
Oh, come on. Oh, wait, are we gonna go? No, 8-2.
18 games with him.
Well, Mark Johnson gets a late one, but we get humiliated 8-3 by one of the worst teams in the history of the league. That's not a good look.
Again, Jeff, it's next year where they're so bad.
They're still pretty awful this year.
Yeah, but next year they lost. They started off, what did we say, 2-25-7. And then the year after is where things got crazy with Howard checking and then stealing Serge Savard.
We do manage to bounce back and beat Pittsburgh 8-5, so we're not quite dead. Although we will be after this one because it's Montreal. Yeah, 9-0 shutout for Denny Herron, who only has to stop 8 shots. Oh, and Richard Brodeur, who I think was still on the Islanders at this point, has been waived, and Colorado has picked him up. So Don Cherry got himself a goalie.
Just because he's an ex-Vancouver Canuck does not mean he's a goalie.
And no, that's bad. The Leafs blew us out 8-2. Just taking a quick look at the NHL stat leaders. Wow, what's going on with Phil Esposito? He should be falling apart this year. I got to take a look at the way his ratings are working this season because he actually retired in mid-season, but somehow he's putting up nearly 2 points a game. So,
how dare he?
Kind of surprising, and Gretzky is right behind him. But that looks more like 1970 Phil Esposito than 1980 Phil Esposito. And a couple of injuries. Bill Baker, minor injury, so Auger can go in for him. And Buzz Schneider looks like he can still play, just a small facial cut, so we'll keep him in the lineup. It's not going to get any worse if he plays. Doesn't help us through 7-1 loss against the Kings. So we seem to be able to win a few games, but when we lose, we're getting absolutely destroyed half the time.
Which is pretty much 1980s hockey.
More or less, yeah. Well, I'm throwing the backup in against Montreal. I'm not going to get Craig killed. And Montreal shuts us out again, so we just can't score against these guys. 5-0.
I mean, you laugh and make fun, but it's literally like games 8-6 or whatever.
And Jets beat us again. Although at least Mark Johnson was the first star there, had a couple of points. Baker is back. We've actually done really well with injuries this year. Leave that as it is. And the wings up again.
Oh, man, I can't remember. The 1980s are encapsulated by, and I God, can't remember who the player was.
6-1 win, 6-0 win over the Wings. Might be our first shutout of the year.
One of the guys who played with the Oilers, when Taylor Hall was still with Edmonton, I read this, I don't know, probably earlier this year. Apparently came up to He's like, congratulations on scoring the game winner tonight. You're only 70 some behind me. And Hall apparently looked back at him and said, oh, yeah, congratulations on scoring the fifth goal and all those 7-4 wins.
Was it Glenn Anderson?
It might have been. It was somebody from, yeah. And it just, that just cracked me up. I'm like, what a great comeback.
Whoa, we beat Montreal 4-3. Not sure how that happened, but we'll take it. How are we doing in the standings here? Well, we're keeping out of last place. Got to be top 16 for a playoff spot, and we're only 4 points out of that, so it's not quite hopeless yet. Getting a little late, so I'm going to just zoom forward a little bit. Oops. Is it telling me to select a captain? Did I lose? Oh, I didn't select my assistants, that's why. Go with Morrow and Christian. So I've been playing the whole season without any assistant captains.
Who needs assistant captains when you have one captain?
And development report, most of them going up. Wow, Jim Craig is declining already. That's not good, but fairly realistic.
So far, though, eh?
Say again?
Surprisingly few injuries, so.
Yeah. Yeah, as soon as you say that, Jack O'Callahan gets hurt, but just a minor cut.
That was entirely my purpose.
And we'll get him back fairly quick. And okay, now Steve Kristoff gets hurt, so one of our better defensemen, and yeah, Kristoff, one of our wings, is going to be out for a couple of weeks. Shuffle the lines just to deal with that. Oops, did it go next year? Actually, I'm going to shut the oops, in that game against the Hawks, I'll come out with a 2-2 tie, but I will jump forward to the beginning of February. We got injured players back. Auger out, Callahan in, Verchoda out, Kristoff in. And it looks like we're starting to slip down in the standings a bit, because we got even more
Can you
injuries.
go lower than last place? I'm not sure.
So finally going to have to dip into the reserve list here. Bring up Gary Rouse, who I think played all in one game for the actual Olympic team. Exhibition game early in the season, if I remember right. Kind of thin at defenseman. And yeah, okay, now it's Mike Ruzioni that's hurt. Shuffle lines again. Yeah, Christoph gets hurt again. See, we were doing fine on injuries until you spoke up. Ouch. Torn back muscle. He's out for a while. Onto the injury list, and I will call up somebody for some more depth. So Ralph Cox comes up. Well, at least Ruzioni's healthy again. I don't need to assign a number there. Cox gets 18. And I think at this point we're just trying to stay out of last place. Okay, we'll just play out the last 5 games or so to see if we can manage to do that. Great, now Callahan's hurt, and Ramsey can go back in at least. So where are we in the standings? 41 points. We are ahead of the Rockies, so we've beaten Don Cherry. But 9 points out of the 5th spot in our division. You can see how weak a division it is. It was. Only the Canadians are above 500. And looks like a fairly tough schedule to close out the season. Wow, 10-2 loss against the Bruins.
Ouch.
And now who's hurt? It's Dave Christian. So Ralph Cox will actually get into a game for us. Kings up next. They beat us easily, 6-1. Charlie Zimmer with the hat trick. And Ralph Cox gets into one game and manages to get injured in it. Out for 2 weeks. Fantastic.
Remember when we didn't have any injuries?
Yeah, before somebody opened his mouth. Okay.
Remember that the next time I'm streaming, Jeff.
Now, great. Kings again. At least we got a player back for this one. And Jim Craig has gone completely cold at this point. Well, they only beat us 2-1. It's a moral victory.
Moral victories are about what's perfect for you, Jeff.
And still got a bunch of injuries. Atlanta up next. Craig play against them. 5-3 loss. Can we win one final game this season? I think this is the... we got Minnesota and Hartford to close out the year. Hartford first. Gordie, Howe and the Whalers, what do we do? Well, we managed a 1-1 tie. And And the final game of the season against the Minnesota North Stars. I'm going to put Christian back in, even though he isn't completely healthy for this. And can we get a win here? Be appropriate against Minnesota because half the players on this team are from Minnesota.
As was the head coach.
Yep, and we get blown out 8-2. Al McAdam, 5 points for the Stars. And that is... No, we got a couple more days to get to the end of the NHL season, but we're finished. Gretzky looks like he closed the season on a 16-game point scoring streak. Did the Oilers make it, though? Yep, okay, so there's the end of the regular season. We finished ahead of Don Cherry and the Rockies by 5 points.
Huzzah.
On a 10-game losing streak to end the year, though. That's not impressive. Worst goals against in the league, and worst goals 4-2. Oh, okay, I may have been a little optimistic about making the playoffs. Looks like the Canucks, I mean, everybody gets into the playoffs at this point. Canucks are in, the Wings made it. Where's Gretzky and the Jets didn't. Jets just ahead of us. Would have been nice to beat them. Oh, wow, the Oilers are actually having a pretty good year. It's a little premature on their part.
Chat. Great idea, bad execution.
Yeah. I mean, it gives you an idea of how impressive it was that these guys were actually able to beat the Russians because, this shows you where they were relative to NHL talent. They couldn't beat, 20 out of 21 NHL teams, and they somehow beat what was effectively the best team in the world. So let's just zoom ahead a few weeks, see how the playoffs go to wind us up, and then I'll take a look at our team stats after that's over.
The thing people, forget too is the U.S. beat the Soviets not even in the gold medal game.
Yep. Well, I mean, the way the Olympics worked then, it effectively knocked the Russians out of the gold medal game.
Yep. And it was also the weird time where the Soviets still won the silver. Despite not playing in the gold medal game.
Yep. So it looks like we got a Boston-Montreal conference final and Sabres Islanders. Oh no, these don't go by conferences. It's just a whole week or a whole league, rather. Montreal and the Islanders in the final. The clash in the 70s and 80s that we never really got in real life. Would have been neat to see them in the final at one point. And Montreal somehow keeps the Islanders from starting their dynasty. And having a look at the history, is that, that's 5 in a row for Montreal. So they managed to match their record from the 1950s. Let's see, Flyers, not surprisingly, knocked the Canucks out in the first round. Leafs actually made it to the second round, but lost to the Bruins. Not a lot. The Blues beat it was the Rangers and then lost to the Islanders. Kings sweeping the Canadiens sweeping the Kings. Yeah, Montreal didn't lose a game until the third round. I'm just going to take a quick look at the stats. Yeah, see, Phil Esposito with 124 points and still 4 stars. He shouldn't be that good at this point in his career. I got to check him in the database, see if I did something wrong there. And look at that. Gretzky, that's his actual point total from the season, 137, right on the money. Matched perfectly. And going to have a quick look at our stats just to see how bad it is. Mark Pavlich, surprisingly our leading scorer, because played a big chunk of the season on the third line, and he didn't really make the NHL until, I think it was 81, 82, a couple of years after this with the Rangers. And Dave Christian after him. Look at those plus minuses. I think the best one I'm seeing is a minus 20. Ruzioni with only 28 points when I ran a test game before this, and they actually did a little bit better than this. Broughton only 34 points. So I think we had a little bit of bad luck here. Game rating wise, well, Broughton's our best player that way. He just didn't put up a lot of points. I'm guessing he was a little more effective defensively. And the goalie's Jim Craig, 891 save percentage, which is pretty impressive for this era, and typical 80s goals against average, 4.38, and Januzak the backup, even worse than that. We're missing a goon, too. We didn't have a really tough guy on this team. Don't think anybody had more than about 80 penalty minutes. But anyhow, that's how the little Miracle on Ice in the NHL experiment turns out. We beat Colorado. That's something. Just curious, I want to see how Bobby All wound up doing for the Jets this year. And take a look at Gordie Howe in a second, too. Oh, he actually managed to last the whole season and put up halfway decent numbers, 56 points. And
fine for every minus, Kudu said.
Yeah. And did Gordie Howe get hurt at the end of the year? Wait, did the Whalers actually trade Gordie Howe? Wow, how about that? They traded Gordie Howe to Toronto. 7 games left in the season.
Oh, Jeff.
Mr. Hockey ends his career as a Leaf.
Oh.
And they got Carl Brewer back from him. So they traded a 52-year-old for a 41-year-old.
Oh, that's... Ugh.
Might be the record for average highest average age in a trade. And hey, Gordie, I wonder how did Howe do in the playoffs?
They were going for youth.
Yeah, he did. He missed a couple of playoff games, but 3 points in 8 games for the Leafs, so he managed to get the Leafs to win a playoff series. That's a pretty good accomplishment to go out on.
If he retires.
Well, easy way to find out. Save it here just to... So I've got that, but...
He most likely will. But
pretty sure he will. Let me just zoom it ahead too. We don't need to look at my game score for the year. And pretty much all the expected guys retiring. Yep. Gordie Howe announces his retirement today and has his number retired by the Wings, not surprisingly. And I think it looks like it's pretty much all the guys you'd expect to retire did there. I guess we can wind it up there.
All right. Thank you very much for tuning into another Franchise Hockey Manager stream. We typically stream every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/OOTP Developments. All of our streams are archived on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/OOTP Development. You can also reach out to us on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Franchise Hockey Manager. On Twitter, we're at Franchise Hockey. We can also find a link to our official Discord channel. You can also, of course, come on down to our official website, which is ootpdevelopments.com. Sign up for our newsletter in case, something shows up there. You never know. Or you can click on the community button in the top right-hand corner, which will bring you to our official forum, where you can come talk about franchise hockey manager, out of the park baseball, perfect team, or anything else you want to talk about, because there's somebody there to talk about just about anything. Jeff, did I miss anything?
No, I think that pretty much covers everything. And if you haven't been watching, if Out of the Park Baseball has been helping MLB.com conduct their sort of an all-time great tournament. Have they finished that yet? Or I think they're getting right near the end, aren't they?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, so if you may want to go over there and check that out. It's kind of neat to see. I've got real play-by-play guys doing the coverage, and quite a few people have been watching it on Twitch, so worth checking out if you haven't taken a look already. So thanks for coming out. We'll be back next week, back with Adam's modern game, which, how are we doing that? I can't remember.
We have not been fired, and we are heading into draft and free agency.
Oh, right. Yeah, we kind of cut it close this season, and we're hopefully we better do something next year. We're going to be in trouble. And then the week after that, we will be back with our regular, the 1960s game alternate history that we've been working on lately. So we just took a break from that this week to do this one. So thanks for coming out, and we will see you all in weeks from now.